Are you looking for a faster video? Well, today it's a live stream and I know you're probably looking for a really nice and tidy edited down video, but I have ways for you to make it faster. You can click that little gear on the YouTube settings right there on the video and adjust the playback speed, make me sound like a chipmunk, and it'll go a lot faster. You can also look and see if there's timestamps for this project in the description, and if you're on a desktop, you can hover over the time bar at the bottom of the screen and see if it's chunked up into chapters, and then that way you can go directly to the step you're looking for. And lastly, you can also tap on the screen on the right hand side of the video picture or on the left hand side to make the video jump ahead, forward or backward if you're on a mobile device. And you can adjust that amount in your settings so you can have complete control over how much it jumps. So if you are on a desktop, you can use the fast forward or the rewind, and that will make it go faster as well. You can also enable subtitles, and the little CC on the screen will enable closed captioning. That way, if I am a little bit harder to understand with that double playback speed, the subtitles might help you out. All right, well, I know that it's not a nice little edited video, but if you sew with me, we'll get there together and it'll be lots of fun. And now for the live stream. Happy sewing! Hello, how's it going? Happy Thursday. Hi Delvin, hey Lynn, hey Hannah, how's it going? Are you guys ready? Hey Barbara, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It's a beautiful day here in Paradise. Literally, my office is in Paradise, California. I've never said that before. It's so funny when you say it. Like, I guess I'm just used to it being the town named Paradise. So let's see. We're making this Fairfield button up with all the plaid matching goodness there is. And I think I'm really loving how it's coming together. And I really loved sewing the collar that way yesterday. Now I really want to do it like 12 times. So, did you, Lynn? Aren't you sick of me now? Jeez, that's a lot. So, hi Marin, welcome back. Nice to see you. All right, so 2 things. If you're sewing this along with me now or in the future, I rewatched my sleeve placket video and I now know why. Here, let's put this guy away for now. We'll just set him aside. So remember I had this little page here at the cutting table and I had that pink stripe there? You need to add that. Like, you don't have to, but I do find sewing this placket on this pattern, the Fairfield Button Up, to be easier if you give yourself a tiny bit more along this long edge. And so I just gave myself like a fat 1/8 of an inch. And then I move this line 6 over the same amount, a quarter, the fat 1/8 as well. So that this is still a 1/4 of an inch away from this long edge. So you can see now, if I line up this pattern piece, I recut these, that it's wider now. I promise I cut it straight. And I actually don't promise that. Let's see, let's make it look like I cut it straight. There we go. So the other thing I did was, I decided to interface this, and I just did that, and I think it's just really because this fabric it tends to be kind of thready, and I want complete control. I actually don't really think you have to do that on this placket. Big animals walking by, but it depends on your fabric. Like if you have a pretty thick fabric, don't do it. If you have something that's a little bit like it's kind of expanding as you go, like a linen or something, or a hemp or something like that, I would definitely stabilize it a little bit. It just makes the step easier. This step is actually not very hard. It just looks kind of crazy when you see all these lines on the pattern pieces, and I'm gonna make it a lot more easy for you. I have a dedicated video for this, so you don't have to watch this whole long Fairfield Sew Through if you want to check that video out. It's very instructional too, so you kind of understand what's happening where so that it's not so mysterious. So, hey Terry, how's it going? Yeah, right? I know, I'm kind of like, I need to do those more often. I think when I was starting to sew them that way, my skill level was like, it was pretty good, but it wasn't really there for, I didn't have other things under control yet. Like I wasn't like getting them good every time. So focusing on doing something new like that and then still trying to get my other spots to work out, it wasn't the right time. I should have just pushed through and gotten it, but I kind of just went back to my other way, you know? So, and I think it's like we're always looking for like, oh, this is the mysterious way to do it so that's perfect every time. And really a lot of them just take work and practice and skill. And there's no secret. So that's just how it is. All right, so that's my tip on this one, on this tower placket. And then I said you could slit that sleeve. If you didn't slit it, it will probably be a little bit easier for you. It's okay if you did. You just have to center this piece over that perfectly if you've already slit it. So what I do usually, this is my video reminded me of this as well. I just give myself a little notch. You know, like you notched right here for the pleat at the bottom. This is the sleeve pattern, by the way. It's just folded in half. See that? Sorry. Just give yourself a little notch right there so you know where to center this box. Tune out all the stuff on the sides and just see this box right here. That right there is going to go over that slit. All right. So, all right. So that's the only thing I did. I made sure I had my little notch with the slit on the sleeve. And then I recut out my placket with that extra 1/8 inch. So that's all I've done. Those are very significant things, so I just want you to be aware of them. If you didn't, it's gonna be okay. We'll get there. All right. So let's make sure I have all my notches here too. So I think that it's nice to be able to do your sleeve plackets on sleeves that aren't attached to a shirt already. However, yeah, we can do that. You could do the placket, but you can't do the cuff yet. I guess that's where I'm stuck. So, all right, so I don't really need this notch right here, but we'll do it. We're just gonna notch it every one of these numbers right here. It's kind of helpful that she numbers it. Nope, not that one. We're gonna slide this one over and do a new notch right there. Okay. So we're also attaching the sleeves with flat felled seams today. So what do we think? Let's attach the sleeves to the shirt and then we'll do the placket and cuff together. That way they're not divided up. So, hey Kathleen. I find on this particular pattern by Fairfield that it's a little easier to get everything to work out in the end if you add just 1/8 of an inch along this edge, because this is gonna fold over like, let's see, it's like weird to look at it like this for me. You're gonna fold it over and you really want that to cover it. I'll get there. I'll be able to explain it better. But the other thing is like, this is the right placket. Okay, this is the other thing I want to note is that if you want to do a trial, and I highly recommend it. I almost did one today, but I watched my video a couple times. Well, I watched it once and then I watched one little spot again. I can't remember what it was. What was I looking for? Something. What was it? Anyway, and so I'm just going to go for it today. But I highly recommend doing a trial. When I record those how-to videos, I cut out 2 or 3 and I sew it through, and I even talk through it so that I get better at it, and so that it looks, I'm less clunky like I am right now. I'm kind of clunky right now. So if you want to cut out just like the bottom half of a sleeve to do it, just note that the sleeve pattern is... So this is the left sleeve, but this is the right placket. So flip over one of them and then cut out your trial to do your trial. Otherwise, you might be a little confused if your fabric has a print on one side and there's a right and a wrong side of the fabric. If there's no right and wrong side of the fabric, doesn't matter, just cut it out. Cut out the bottom, you know, just cut out that bottom portion, cut out a placket, and then you'll be fine. But just note that this is the left sleeve and this is the right placket, okay? And always the side with the greater amount right here, this is your front sleeve. So, and then the eighth I add there, it's really just so that you don't have to struggle trying to cover up the whole placket and that it covers it up nicely. And it's just a little easier to sew. So hopefully I don't need to watch my own tutorial again in the middle of our stream today. You never know, right? All right, so we're going to start with flat felled seams, and I wrote down the seam allowances somewhere here and where seam allowances are on which piece. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to iron the edge on the sleeve. Now you don't have to do flat felled seams. Just note that if you cut this particular pattern out just as it was, that the seam allowance on the sleeve and the armhole are different amounts. And so you're going to need to line it up on the seam line. I think the sleeve has a 1/4 inch and the armhole has 3/8 inch, something like that. And then it's the same on the underarm. One of them has 1/4 inch, one of them has 5/8 inch. Yeah, that's it, right? Yeah, 1/4 and one has 5/8, and you sew it differently on the underarm and the side seam, all right? So we're going to go to the iron. We're going to iron under this edge of the sleeve. And I did a little schematic for myself. All right, so I'm sorry that it's hard to tell what the right and wrong side of my sleeve is. So I have this pin here saying that this is the right side of the fabric. So if you can see that pin, you'll know. So we're going to separate them out. And we're going to fold 1/4 inch along this sleeve cap towards the right side of the sleeve, all right? So you might need to make a note which is the front and which is the back so that you don't lose track and don't burn your fingers, because mine is extra steamy today. Let's turn down the steam a little bit because I have a long way to go. So just fold this down 1/4 inch. I'm going to do this the way the instructions say. Oh my gosh, it's hot. How are you guys all doing? Entertain me while I do some ironing here. When I think of flat felled seams, I think of them as being like you're hemming the seam allowance, right? Just try and get a nice smooth curve there. We're going to go all the way around. We don't have to do this for the other seam, so don't worry. Just have to do it on your 2 sleeve caps, and you don't have to do it when we go to the underarm and the side seam either, because those are sewn a little differently. You do have to do some ironing, but it's a lot easier. Ow, 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 ow. Yee! I love that this holds the steam a little bit, and I can kind of pull it and then finger press it where I want it. Okay, so seal the deal there. All right, and then same with this one. This is the right side of the sleeve. And I think this is my back sleeve. Well, I'll figure that out in a second. I probably notched only one sleeve or something silly like that, knowing me. Oh, you're inventing a belt. I love it. That's awesome. What's the costume that gets a belt? Did you do a lot of costume sewing, Lynn? Is that your profession? Do you sew as a profession then? My hat is off to you. All right. Yee. Need my little, the little finger glove thingy that comes with my flat iron that I never use. We're just jumping right into it today, aren't we? I'm kind of excited. Aw, that sounds so cute, Lynn. I love it. Hi, Mafio. Mafio, your Mercer looks amazing. I love it. I love the fabric you chose. You know, that fabric is perfect. Like, it's so different than what I would expect to see the Mercer in, and I think it looks great. No for family. Oh, well, that's even better. Here's my little like sample here because I was like walking myself through it. All right. So this one, let's see. I think this is the one that has notches. So let's make sure I put my notches on this one too, because you know, I need them. It's a little late to be notching. All right. So I don't know how many of you follow Dwayne Mainly Menswear on Instagram or even on YouTube. He has a YouTube channel. But he is also sewing a plaid shirt right now. And he did a bias yoke as well. And one of his shoulders matches as well. So I thought that was really funny. I only need those two there. All right. I'll just put that away. Oh, really? Lynn, that's awesome. A Grace quilting frame. What are you quilting, Terry? You bought the silicone finger covers. Yeah, that's so smart. Yeah, me too, Mafio. You saw his short. Oh, he has a short? Oh, I didn't see that. I'll have to check that out. That's awesome. I saw it on Instagram. All right, so this is the front. And remember, this is the right sleeve. I wish my fabric wasn't the same on both sides because it's kind of confusing for me too. This is the right sides together. And that's the front. So it is this one here. This sleeve needs to go on this side. Yeah, okay. And then let me look at my little sample here. Yeah, so yeah, okay. So when you line this up, let me get this all so it's easy to tell what's going on here. So this is the back of my sleeve, the wrong side of my sleeve. This is the right side of my garment, right? This is the right side of my sleeve. We're still putting these right sides together, and we're gonna line up this folded edge to the raw edge of this seam. This is one of the rare times you're gonna see me put a sleeve on flat and not set it in either. Oh, interesting, Terry. I like that. Is a quilting frame for hand quilting? Do you hand quilt them? Holy moly. All right, and so you're gonna sew this at a 3/8 inch seam. So I think the trick right here is, you know, look, because look, we have our folded edge. Why is the autofocus on? We don't like the autofocus here on this channel. It's still checked, that's why. And then let's zoom in a wee bit more and let's fight with my camera a little bit. That's not bad. All right, don't you guys, what do you guys think of this? I'm gonna move this over here. Is that off my screen? I kind of like it like this. Is that off the screen? I can't tell. That blends in with the, because I don't use a dark mode or anything, so it blends in. What do you think of that? All right. Oh, very cool, Terry. Yeah, that's true, Lynn. There is something, what's it called? Hey, Libby. Yay, it is. That's awesome. That was quite a crazy fix you probably had to address. All right, so when you're doing something like this and you're lining up this folded edge here, and you're gonna sew this at a 3/8 inch seam, you don't wanna catch this, all right? So it's a little fiddly to do it this way. So just maybe occasionally unfold this and make sure you're not catching it, because who knows how truly accurate I was when I turned back that 1/4 of an inch. You know, hopefully I was, right? We don't want to change our seam allowance. And you're just going to need to adjust as you go that your fold is still lined up to the raw edge. So I'm going to pin this at a couple of non-negotiable spots, like here. I'm hoping that this notch goes to the yoke seam. You know? Yeah, what's that stuff called? There is specific stuff you can get, but I found this study done on the most heat resistant materials for like sewing and making hot pads and things, and it actually was the toweling. I didn't have a whole lot of towels I wanted to cut up because I actually really value those. All right, so yeah, that does look like that's where that goes. And look, there's not a lot of ease in this. There's probably none. So you don't have to worry about it. Look, I'm not gonna pin anything else. Look at that, it just is lining up pretty darn good, all right? So 3/8 inch seam. I think in the past I've sewn, oh, I'm winding a bobbin. I'm like, something sounds different. My bobbin didn't wind yesterday. Is it touching something? Does it sound funny to you guys? It sounds funny to me. All right, it's winding. I'm pretty sure the first time I sewed the Fairfield with a flat felled seam, for the underarm and the side seam, I did it a different way. I didn't do it the correct way. So today I'm going to do it the correct way. It used the word thermal. It's one way and very heat repellent. Yeah, what is that stuff called? For a couple of my oven mitts, when I was developing that pattern, and in fact it was kind of partly what inspired me, is that I had bought these hot pads made by like, not Cuisinart, but All Clad. And they had this silicone, these silicone stripes on it. And I ended up cutting those apart because my husband and I, neither one of us have gigantic hands. And those things, it was like you're putting your hand inside of a bear paw, and I couldn't even bend the things. And I was like, these aren't safe, you know? So I cut those apart, and they weren't cheap. I was just so sick of us having a crusty old oven mitt we hadn't washed and replaced in so long, and you know, our kid dipping it into whatever she's picking out of the oven. So I decided, oh, I'm going to change this out, and these people must know what they're doing. I'm going to get one of their hot pads. And I was like, yeah, this was made for a 7-foot man with 8-inch long fingers or something. I don't know. I'm just trying to get a little bump out of my fold here. So I ended up cutting them up so they weren't a waste. All right. It's one way to get fabric, right? Doesn't my machine sound funny right now? Insulbright, yeah, that's it. Thank you, you guys. It was a Freelander pattern. I like her stuff. That way you give me the winky face. I am finally on her, you know, email list, and she's always like, my new fabric is now out, and it's not out. You know, it's like out to be sold wholesale, and I want all of it. Let's see, I'm just checking. It looks like I caught some of it here. Yeah. It's just like the little stray threads of my particular fabric got caught. See? So I'm just pulling it apart. All right. All right, so now we're going to trim down this seam here. So that it will fit in there. If you're more accurate, or if you have something that's less thready, see, look at this, and my shoulder seam wasn't lined up perfectly there, so we gotta even that up. If yours is, sewn more accurate or is less thready, you may not even need to trim. If your fabric's not very bulky, you may not need to trim. If it's pretty bulky, you're probably gonna want to trim it down. Look at how thready my fabric is, though. This is very awkward to do it like this. It makes me a little nervous. No, don't cut that. There we go. All right. And so now let's press it. Oh, there you go. That'll work. All right. Now we're going to fold this over. And make sure that you pull apart your two pieces. This is the body, this is the sleeve. Pull these apart. You don't want to accidentally have this happen. So if this is the body, we're about to turn this and stitch it down, right? You don't want this to kind of lap over that seam, right? So if you want to press it from the other side first, that's totally fine. Just give it a good pressing. Look at that little bump right here. And if you want, you can repress this and pin it. I'm just going to give it a little touch up. So you're going to see this stitch line. So if this is your first time doing this, you may get a wiggly, unparalleled edge. I probably will too. So just be nice to yourself. But this is your chance. So if your fold, see how my fold here is a little bit wider here and a little bit more true here. So when I stitch that down on this side, you would see the stitch line being not as perfectly parallel along the seam. So that's what you're going for. So if you want it to be perfectly parallel, make sure your fold is the same width all the way along this edge here. So if you're, doing gifts, or you're trying to impress somebody, or you're trying to up your skills, this is your chance. This is when you do that part. My husband better be impressed already, right? But there's nothing like, keeping him impressed. I think a good note on the pattern would be not to notch. I want to trim, what do I want to do here? Why is this so much, why is that so wide? That seems so wide there. Right? I think one good note would be not to notch into your sleeve, because it is kind of hard to cover that up, and it might be on the pattern, and because, I'm kind of cavalier when I cut things out, I didn't notice it. But that would be my tip if to my future self. And maybe I'll make a note on this pattern. I'll try and remember that when I cut my brothers out. So when you get to the sleeve cap area, it can be a little tricky. part of me wants to just do this, to refold this right here. And then I'll fiddle with it up sitting at my sewing machine, where I tend to do a little bit better when I have to do fiddly stuff, you know? All right, the rest of this looks pretty good. All right. I want to look at my little thing here. Yeah, it's so funny. Okay. I keep bringing my pin cushion back. So the hard part is right through here. It's really hard to, so if you think about the actual engineering of this and like what the logistics and what's happening here, it's not really supposed to be able to do this, right? Because first of all, usually seam allowances on sleeves always get pressed toward the sleeve. And in this case, on a flat felled seam, you're pressing it toward the body, all right? You're also trying to get this curve to lay flat up here. And who knows where we're at in the grand scheme of if this, you know, when this is folded here, if that length actually matches where you're stitching it to. So it is a little fiddly. And you can see, can you see like how my sleeve, I don't know if I can even show you, but my sleeve is sticking up like this on the, it's sticking up like this much when it's sitting here, right? So it's not laying flat. So it is going to be tricky. So what I say is make sure that this little edge here, especially where you have these thicknesses where your yoke seam is attached, are going to cooperate, because that's where it's kind of the trickiest. And I think what I'm going to do, especially right here, it's just end because I have that notch cut at the cap of my sleeve. So it's going to give me a problem. I'm going to really trim away that thickness there. If your fabric is super open weave and thready, be careful trimming that too much. But this notch is just too deep. My own fault. So I'm going to trim this down a little bit more so that when I fold it, maybe I can enclose this notch here. Thankfully, this is on the inside of the sleeve, so I don't have to worry about if that little notch frays. It's not going to inhibit the integrity of the shirt at all. But what could we do to prevent this? Not notching it, maybe chalking it instead. Here's another one. I'm gonna trim this down. So I made one of these for my daughter. And I lined the body with a fake Sherpa fleece. Fake meaning it was like cotton. It was like a really soft, fluffy cotton. I don't want to say like terry cloth, but because it wasn't terry cloth, but because it actually was made to look like Sherpa and be a cotton version, not a polyester version. And so I wanted to kind of mimic the classic like lumberjack, you know, fleece lined plaid quilted over shirt jacket, because we each have one of those that we have matching ones that we got and we wear them, but they're definitely like not something we wear out in public because it's just like a cozy shirt and they look kind of funny on us. I don't know. They're just super cozy. So I thought I'm going to make her one for everyday use. And so I used the Fairfield, or maybe it was the Archer. I can't remember. I think I used the Archer. And I lined just the body with this Sherpa. All right, I'm here to tell you how hard that shoulder seam was, this seam right here, the sleeve seam, because the body was so thick. And so there's no way I could have done a flat felled seam there, and I didn't because the Archer's not set up for that. But I also wanted it to be not too bulky, but it didn't work. Like it's fine, but I can tell she doesn't wear it too much, and it's because right through here it got a little bit, it's not stretched out. It's that the thickness of the body really makes that sleeve kind of, you know, stretch. It's not stretched though, you know, so it just makes it stand out. The seam is so stiff. So that is my cautionary tale. You know, if you want to do something like that, take that into account. Maybe not do a flat felled seam there either, just so you are aware. All right, so let's do this here. I have too many things here because I'm waiting to do the shirt sleeve placket. All right. Oh my gosh, stop it. There we go. Sorry. You've got 2 mammoth plaid shirts there. So, oh, what pattern did you use? So like I said, remember, you want to pull apart this seam right here because remember, this is the sleeve, this is the body. You don't want it to overlap or like lap on the, because the other side's the right side, right? We're sewing on the underside. And you're just going to edge stitch this fold. This is the easy part. It's nice. You can kind of get warmed up on this lower part. Try and get a nice smooth fold if you can. This down here isn't too hard. It's going to get a little hard in just a second. What you're thinking about right now as far as like what's good is you want a nice parallel line to the seam line. So if your fold is nice and parallel, you're going to get a nice parallel line, you know. So mine won't be perfect. This fabric is far too fiddly and I don't really want to do that. Like it's nice, but you know. All right, so I'm at the cap, and so that's where I gave myself a few extra pins. And so my tendency, like I've said before, I'm a puller, right? I pull things constantly to get them to lay flat, to ease them in, whatever. And I don't want to happen what happened on my daughter's shirt where it got all like stretched out. That's what it is. It did get kind of stretched out there. I think that is actually a good way to say it, even though it's sewed in fine. It's just like that seam allowance is so bulky that it's kind of putting it to its maximum. All right, what's going on here? That got caught on the pin. There we go. So here's where that notch is. I'm going to do my best, but, you know, between the thickness, like taking up some of my seam allowance, I'm about to run out of bobbin, aren't I? I think I heard a little click. All right, I'm still sewing. That's great. I'm just glad that if it runs out now, it's down here. Just trying to make my fold a little smaller here, the width of this. Now, I didn't even think about plaid matching or anything like that right now. And like I said, I didn't even gear my sleeve towards being matched for plaids. It will happen, you know, like it did right here, which is kind of cool. This is the inside of the sleeve. But you have to remember, this was something I didn't say in the cutting video because it just didn't come into my mind to explain it this way. But one of the reasons it's really hard to match the plaid of a sleeve to the plaid of a garment is this length here. Like if you're to measure this seam right here, let's measure the plaid only on the seam line here. It measures, we'll do it at the smaller end. It's like 3 3/4. But if you measured the plaid, it's only 2.5 inches. And so obviously you can see right there, it doesn't match, but it matches down here. That's why it's so hard. So that's more of a, you know, easier way to kind of look at it. All right, let's look at this side. That looks really nice. It's actually one of my nicer ones. This fabric is thinner than some I've done. But can you see that it is it's like a little boardy right here? See that? And like I said, you know, usually seam allowances for sleeves go toward the body. And the sleeve hangs nicer that way because you get that little like bump right there, which is nice, and it gives you a little bit more ease. It's okay that it doesn't do that. What's nice about a flat felled seam is that it's less bulky and it's nice and smooth against the body. And because you've stitched it down, the sleeve's gonna be fine. You know, it's gonna look okay. All right, so let's do the other one. Hey Nancy, how's it going? Oh yeah, exactly, Lynn. Yeah, sizing up, that's a good idea. So this is the right side. Yep, okay, this is the right side. So right sides together. And remember, that means that it's the folded back toward the right side of the garment, and you line up that fold. And then I'm just gonna put a pin at my shoulder seam. So there's my little notch that's going to cause me trouble in a little bit. Right there. Let's see if I can get it to match correctly. There we go. Right? Yeah, and then I always just put like one at the end, one in the middle, and one at the other end on almost everything I sew when I need pins. Just kind of those like little helping hands. Hey, Walter. Hey, Aisha. How's it going, you guys? That was a loud noise. Something's happening. All right. So right sides together. Let's line this up a little better. This shirt feels so bulky right now. Like it's a lot of shirt on the table. All right, I'm gonna get situated a little bit better here. Pull up some of this onto the table here so it's not pulling down on my needle. And then remember, you don't want to catch this little raw edge. It's not the end of the world if you do, as long as this edge right here, you can still trim it, you know, because you don't want that poking out of your folded edge. If you didn't want to do a flat felled seam here on the sleeve and you're using this pattern, if you like 5/8 inch seam allowance, you're just going to add 3/8 of an inch seam allowance to your armhole of the body. So the front and the back and the yoke. And then you'll have your, or you're going to add a 1/4 inch, sorry, because we're doing this at a 3/8 inch seam. You're going to add a 1/4 inch to those seams. And then you can do a French seam or just a 5/8 inch seam. And if you want a 3/8 inch seam allowance, you're going to trim a 1/4 of an inch off of the sleeve cap. All right, so this one's not going in as smoother, but we're going to make it work. Look at that. Why? Make sure that fold is pretty smooth. I keep thinking there's a thread here, but it's just like a little funny line in the weave. I keep trying to scratch it off. I'm just going to check my sleeve for the way it's matching since I have this little extra right here, which I shouldn't have that. All right. Fold to the raw edge and the sleeves right sides together still. Wait, there's new ABBA songs? I feel like you're setting me up for a joke right now. Hey, Penny. Yes, Penny, you do. Do you, Big C? It is. It's a good one, isn't it? I had my husband say once out of the blue, he's like, you know, I love this shirt. And it was I think it was one of the short sleeve versions that I made for him. He's like, this thing fits me so good. And it's like, it goes together. It goes like no matter what. Oh, I can't talk. He just likes it, you know, and he pulls it out and he's like, I love this thing. So I've made him a bunch of these. I'm going to trim this down. So yeah, Penny, you match up the fold to the raw edge and it's right sides together. So, you know, this is what it's looking like right here. This is the, we're looking at the wrong side, right? This is the shirt, this is the sleeve. And then that's the right side. And then we have this little short seam allowance on the body and the folded seam allowance on the sleeve. It's hard to see, huh? Hey, Donna. Hey, Eliza. What? There's 3 new ABBA songs? Wow. How'd I miss that? All right, let's make sure my fold didn't get caught along here. "11/5", the new album is released. Oh, that is pretty cool. That is pretty cool. You know what? Maybe I'll get that for Cricket's birthday because she went through a phase of loving ABBA, which cracked me up, like when she was a kid. And hey, I wasn't going to argue listening to that in the car. I was just so still thankful we were past the days of Raffi and stuff. She loves the Beatles too. Like, it's so great when your kid likes music. You're like, okay, yeah, I can listen to this. Like, and not kid music. But kid music is really fun. Like, I always enjoyed Raffi, but you know, she'd be like, you know, "Ma, listen to Waffy," you know, from the back seat. It was really cute. But then I'd be like, the same song over and over. They must be. Okay, we're gonna iron. Yeah, and watching, you know, Mamma Mia was one of our guilty pleasures. Again, so happy that I wasn't watching some sort of Wizards of Waverly Place movie for the 3rd time. You know. All right, this is looking pretty good. So I'm just going to give the seam a little bit of a press, especially at these little sticky spots where the yoke is. Yes, we sing. Oh my gosh, we had some of those. I handed those things down. 40-year break. They're calling it a break, huh? I don't know about that. I think it sounds more than a break. All right, I'm going to trim this. This is that yoke seam for me. I'm going to trim this way down. I don't like trimming seam allowances that low, but because we're going to be stabilizing the seam with an extra stitch there, it makes it so that the seam isn't only pulling from the original seam, it's pulling from both. It'll reduce the amount of strain put on that seam there. All right. I'm going to repress this. I'm finding it a little easier and a little faster to just repress this edge from this side. But if you aren't, you know, if you're not live streaming, you have the time, I would actually press it along the sleeve. All right. So after this, I'm going to put in the side seam, which is also a flat felled seam. And then we're going to do the shirt sleeve plackets. And we're going to do the tower style. If you're just doing the regular bias placket, which is one I do very often because I'm usually sewing like a few of these at once. And like I said, you know, the hot cocoa is out. I'm watching Netflix. I'm mindlessly sewing. I just do the bias sleeve placket too, you know. So if you're doing that, I have a video just for that, and it's a lot faster. But once you do these a few times, they're pretty fun, in my opinion. I like them. I've done more of the bias sleeve placket than I have the tower, though, for sure. Okay. All right, so let's just pin it. Well, I'm just going to pin it just in this little sticky area here where that notch is kind of hassling me, which is right here. Remember, pull these two apart so that you get it nice and flat. It just makes a huge difference on your flat felled seam. So Saturday, I'm cutting that ideal bag. I need to make sure I have lining fabric for that. Is anyone else doing that with me? It's not technically a sew along, but it does seem like a few of you have been downloading the pattern lately. It's free. And I'm kind of curious if I'm not the only one. Nice, Nancy. Good for you. You know, it's true, right? As soon as you decide, like, all right, this is happening, if you prepare for it, it's so much better, isn't it? Whatever it is. That's me and my Photoshop class. I'm like, this class is going to end soon, so you better get a little caught up, Missy, so that you don't miss out on opportunities to ask questions if you have any. You'll be a lot happier. And then when I started working on it, I was like, okay, this isn't bad at all. Like, I totally can get this. This is no big deal. I have this weird thing, like, my internet sometimes goes out at home, and we've had all these storms lately, you know. So, which side do I want to do this from? So it's the thing of, if I have the design in Procreate on my iPad doesn't have data. It only operates with Wi-Fi. It was one of the choices I made when I bought it. So if I need to get the design into Photoshop on my computer, which I brought my computer home to do that, I have to be able to upload it to the cloud, and then I need to download it into the computer. And that sometimes just can't happen. It's a lot of steps. You know, it kind of makes me sometimes not do it. What happened here? Why are you looking like all that? Oh, nice, Barbara. Do you have all your... I'm just going to warn you, there's a lot of pattern pieces on that thing. I'm really failing. I swear this thread is the same color as my needle. All right, that's it. Stream's over. I can't thread my needle. Oh, man. There's something fuzzy about it right now. It was all like... Let's give myself a little bit more. I want a studio assistant just to thread my needle. I can do it almost with my eyes closed if I'm not live streaming. It'd be the same thing, Barbara. It doesn't matter. I can't get email on my computer if I don't have internet. It's just like trust me. Oh, perfect. Okay, yeah, that's right. That's what you said. Ooh, and cork. How much bobbin do I have? Shoot, that was a good question, Nicole. Let's see. I know, I feel like I've been close for so long. And that's just because I know that I didn't have 100% full bobbin when I started. All right, let's get rid of these pins here. And let's get the awl, because you can, I don't know if you can see, but my fold there, it's a little bit, you know, you see that little ruffle in it. So I'm still pulling this apart. It's almost like you have to ease that fold because it is a little bit longer than the spot you're sewing it to. I'm sure that's actually exactly what's happening. Here's that thickness of the yoke seam. All right, and now we're pretty good. Now it's really easy. Just remember, if yours doesn't look that great, this is the inside of the garment, and I would just focus on getting the fold secure and the line as parallel to the seam as possible, because that's really all you're going to see from the right side. That's my backup plan. All right. So there's the inside, and then here's the outside. Looks good. What's great about this is with a French seam, you're always worried. Look at how narrow I got right here. With a fringe seam, you're always worried you're going to get those little like frayed fuzzy edges, you know, sticking through. It's not a Mac. Yeah, airdropping would be exactly what I need to do. I'm going to brighten this up just a tad for you guys. Yeah, I can, what I do usually is I just upload it directly to OneDrive. But then I need to be able to, like, OneDrive's on my computer, but it's like, look, shows as a temporary file until I have internet, and then I can download it. I can't even see the temporary file, so. Yeah, I know, the Mac thing would be nice. Okay, so now we have our 2 sleeves with the front flat-felled seam. Barbara, I can't get email on my computer unless I have internet, though. The computer has to have internet to get it somehow. It's like a tongue twister or a puzzle, a mind bender sometimes. All right, so now we have our flat felled seam on our underarm, and this one's a little different. Let me see. We do this wrong sides together, and which one is it? The back has a 1/4 inch seam, and the front has a 5/8 inch seam. So same seam allowance type of setup. Wait, wrong sides together. But you sew it a little differently. I'm all getting salty with Barbara. Trust me, I've thought about it. But I can do things like airdrop to my phone and then upload directly to Spoonflower, but my files aren't at that stage yet because the whole point of this class is to learn how to do some of the same things I do in Procreate in Photoshop. Can I really? Oh, I didn't think about that. Can I really do that without internet? I guess that's true. That's true. I actually think I have the right little plugin for that too. Okay, so we're going to sew our side seam here and the underarm of our sleeve. So let me show you what we're looking at here. This is the back of my garment. This is also the right side, and I have the underarm here. Right? So that's the sleeve. This is the underarm. And the back has a 1/4 inch seam. The front has 5/8 of an inch seam. So what you're looking for when you're lining this up is you want to make sure that your underarm seam lines up, right? And this is the right side. So it is a little tricky to figure out how it's going to line up. But you just want to make sure you're looking at these seams here. And then what you're looking for is basically a 3/8 inch gap between these 2 raw edges. And then that will give you the right spacing. So, you know, if you have like a little ruler handy like that, and just make sure you have that 3/8 inch spacing. And then you can sew this so that your 1/4 inch, it's like a 1/4 inch seam from the raw edge. Yes, I can hotspot from my phone, Walter. I've done that before. My only problem with that is I don't have an unlimited hotspot. My husband does, but I don't. Like, I didn't even have it, and he didn't realize that when we changed plans. It's not a big deal, but, you know. Oh, interesting. That's true, Nicole. Yeah, I might try that. All right, so we'll just put a few pins in. So see that? We have this 3/8 inch gap there. Our seam allowance is 5/8 at the end of my ruler here, so that means we're sewing. Basically, you can look at it as a 5/8 inch seam to this edge or a 1/4 inch seam to this edge. Just make sure you have that 3/8 inch spacing. And now we're also thinking about plaid matching now. All right. So there's a lot of, if you really want to be really precise, you know, you're going to be folding this back. Let's fold this back on the 1/4 inch and then line it up on that 5/8 inch seam, right? Like that. because that's actually where it's going to be sewn, right? So sometimes matching your raw edges isn't good enough. You need to match it on the seam line. Plaids can also look different from the right side versus the wrong side. So now one thing that's going to aid us in our plaid matching is, remember, we're looking at this from the right side of the garment. So if we're getting a little bit off, when we fold this over to do our last flat felled seam, we can actually maybe just barely shift this little fold around to actually match on the plaid. So yeah, Nikki, right? Yeah, like you do get kind of clever. The hotspot thing, I was like, oh, this is working pretty good, but I think I have like a 15 something limit. I don't remember what it is. So I didn't want to use it up. So like I can't like watch video or Netflix using the hotspot. That would just chew it up, you know? So I just use it for key things like that. All right, so here's my underarm seam here. So let's do the same thing. Fold a 1/4 inch back, line it up on that 5/8 inch seam allowance. Seam line, I mean. So remember, this is the right side of the garment. So if you sew it up a little bit off, that seam's going to show on the inside of the garment, not the outside. And this fold, the fold we do is going to be really the key. So I'm just going to pin this along this seam. If you're not doing a plaid, you don't really probably need to put all these pins in. I'm just doing it for the plaid matching. Just to kind of keep myself on track best I can. Jeremy tends to be a little impetuous with stuff like this, so this is good. It's keeping her honest. Yeah, I think that's a good tip, Nancy, just drawing your seam line on there. Especially since, like I said, this is the wrong side, so you can actually draw it on there and then stack it. Look how thready my fabric is. All right, so I'm going to look at the 5/8 inch seam. So remember, I'm looking at 1/4 inch to this raw edge from the needle to this raw edge, and 5/8 to this raw edge. So this raw edge is lined up on my 5/8 inch line on my throat plate. I'm kind of looking at the plaids. Should have checked my bobbin. Let's check it before I do this next step though, because, you know, we'll be folding and stuff. Just in time for side seam. Hi, Elena. How's it going? Oh, that's so smart, Nikki. The longest, slowest side seam sewing ever. This right here doesn't look like it's 5/8. There we go. That's better. Is that cut wrong right there or what? I can't really tell. All right. And let's do our other one while we're here so we can do all our ironing at once. We'll be a little quicker this time since we know what we're doing now, right? Bobbin roulette. Yeah, let's check it. Yeah. Look at that. Starting to see metal. We do, oh geez. We do need a bobbin command, don't we? Maybe just bobbin. I like that. Did the seam allowance change in the sleeve? What do you mean, Barbara? I hate it when my bobbin winder does that. It didn't change. It's just there's allowance for flat felled seam. When you are not a bobbin. Good thing I'm not a bobbin, right? Let's set this one up to wind. This color of this thread, I'm so happy to actually use it. It's not very often. Oh, did it look like they met during the end, at the end there on the sleeve? Let me check. Did I not get very good there? Oh, I think it's just because the colors match, but could be 3/8 right here. Like it could be a little better. All right, same thing. Wrong sides together. You gotta kind of love on the French seam. All right, so, but we want to start this on the back. I like to see it on the back, so we're gonna start, this is my sleeve, because the back has the narrower seam allowance. But I do love that you finish this on the right side, you know, because I do that with so many steps. Like I'm gonna do that with the cuff, you know. It's like with my thing. Yeah, or maybe the command should just say, check your bobbin, you know? Check your bobbin. All right, so full back quarter. Line it up on that 5/8 line. Make sure, I'm gonna do this one a little faster so we can keep this going. I wanna get to the sleeve placket soon too. I have so many things to photograph right now that it's kind of stressing me out. Like I haven't photographed my Auburn blazer, the Ryan Raglan, the Mercer top, a pair of jeans that I made for a project that's coming out soon, and now it'll be the Fairfield. I hate all the photography stuff, but the weather's been just so bad for doing that outside. My photography is marginal anyway, and it's just like, I don't really want to like add to it by doing it when it's pouring rain and we're limited direction and clouds. I mean, cloudiness sometimes is really helpful for colors and stuff like that. Indirect light, you know. Look at that. So this side seam over here is a little bit off if I match the plaids. I think honestly this piece is just a little longer because the other one matched and we cut them out separately. Oh yeah, that's a good one, Nikki. I like that. You feel that backlog of photos? Yeah, it is serious, you know? Yeah, I sent an apology to the Sewing in the City because I was like, oh, I didn't sew first after I changed my bobbin. What? Oh, it's too late now. Oh, it's not sewing. Yeah, I thought it sounded funny. Why you not sewing, man? That's why. Have you guys ever done that where you sewed for a while without bobbin and then you have to go back and resew it, right? But do you ever notice that it's easier to sew the second time with thread? It's kind of a good tip. Like if you are kind of wanting to see if something's going to line up, you can always sew it with nothing, no thread. And it's almost like it preps it, like it's a pre-sew, you know? A green screen just for Instagram. You do sweater, yeah. Sweaters, oh gosh, yeah. I didn't feel the pressure to do sweaters because, I wasn't like promoting anything. But I know people want to see it on the body. I'm not trying to sell patterns. I always sound like I'm trying to sell you guys patterns, but I don't sell patterns. Like, these pattern companies don't care what I'm doing. And I just like promoting like you can do it. If you want to sew this pattern, you can do it, you know? But I do think it's really helpful for people to see things on the body. And that was the hardest thing to get used to doing the live stream. Is it didn't occur to me how many pictures of myself wearing stuff I was going to be posting. And of course, it's like every week. So I finally was just like, whatever. All right, let's see how good my plaids match. This is the inside of the garment, by the way. Oh, not bad. Okay. This is the side seam. Underarm, we're not as worried about. I'm not going to turn it just because we're going to turn it in a second. Let's look at my other one. How did my first one go? Okay, that's not bad. A little bit of threadiness. Why do I have all these threads? It's the right sides together. Shouldn't be any threads at all. All right. So I'm going to trim off these threads here just to make this a little easier. And we're going to go to the iron. Whew. Even on the angle, this fabric is thready. It didn't seem like it so much in certain areas, did it? Look at this. The side's getting a little out of control. The green thing is kind of fiddly. I have one. What I learned from trying it was that blondes need a blue screen. You never hear the term blue screen, but most blondes need a blue screen. They're pretty hard to calibrate. I gave up on mine because I didn't really need it that much. My aim was to make it so that I didn't have a background, so that maybe my face could be like right, wait, is my logo in here? Do I have my logo in here? No. So that my face would be, would be down here with no background. So you would just see the sewing behind me. And I thought that would like free up the, the canvas size of the video, and it would give you more visual space. But you have to have something to hang it on behind you. And that was fine at my old office, but I couldn't get it to calibrate because of the fluorescent lights. Oh, really, Barbara? I didn't know that. Is that why you not? Hi, Diane, how's it going? You're never late. You're always on time. And as Ray likes to say, we were waiting for you. All right. But in a good way. Not like you're good pressure to be here. All right, so... I'm going to press this. So first we're going to press it towards the front. So this is a little fiddly, this part, I will say. This is a little fiddly. We need the salami. I really need more space. Too many machines here. Turn up this heat a little bit. Hey Angela, how's it going? Was it it's a totally different way to sew it, Penny. So don't do that. Don't do it how the sleeve is. Look at, here's my long tail because I didn't do a little bit of sewing first after I changed my bobbin. All right, so press it towards the front. So on this one, you actually fold this to meet the raw edge of this one here, like this. So if you have to trim this down a little bit, go ahead, but I'm just gonna fold it to meet it. So you press it towards the front so that you have a nice flat surface, and then you're meeting these two seam allowances together. And then it's gonna flop over and sew down, all right? Just so you know what's about to happen. I think it's always nice to know what the aim is, the end goal, right? So press it towards the front, and then press this little edge toward the shorter seam allowance. This will make it less bulky. So if you're doing something that's a little bit stiff or bulky, like a denim or maybe something thicker, this is going to help you not have such a bulky seam here. Because the whole point of a flat felled seam, right, is to make it nice and flat to the body. You don't have those seam allowances kind of flopping around inside, which can kind of be a little annoying for some folks, depending on the fabric. Yeah, I know, Penny. It is kind of confusing, and I'm pretty sure in my, in fact, I'm almost like 99% sure in my previous Fairfields, I did not do the flat felled like this. I just went like this. I just flopped it over, turned it under, and stitched it down, like basically hemming it over that seam allowance, which makes it kind of bulky. I could do that in this fabric. This fabric isn't very thick. If you need more room, trim down the seam allowance of the back. You know, just trim this down a little bit, like this. You might, especially like right here in this thickness of this underarm seam. Let's see if it'll make it a little easier now to, you'll have more space to fold. I'm gonna true this up a tiny bit right here. There we go. Yeah, like that. Is this where you're at, Penny, on yours? I can't remember where you're at. You just bought your daughter green screen for her birthday and it's blue screens. Oh, now, yeah, that's, mine came two-sided. I didn't spend a whole lot on my green screen. I got one that, you know how that there's those sunshades that like go boing, you know, like you pull it out of the thing and they pop open. I got one of those because I thought if this works great, I'll probably invest more, but I want to try it out first. And I don't want it to take up a lot of space if it doesn't, like when I'm storing it. Granted, I'm definitely one of those people that's like, if you really want to succeed, you should probably have at least a decent tool to start with, right? That being said, I don't think you need an expensive sewing machine. Oh, okay, cool, Penny. Yeah, they're totally different from each other. Neither is hard. It's just, you know, a process. There we go. Oh, these threads. I hope your fabric, whoever's sewing this, doesn't have this thread issue that I do. So now this is where I'm talking about when I flop this over to the other side to stitch it down. That's when I can kind of focus on matching my plaid. So now we can turn this way. And remember, we are on the right side of the garment. So you're going to pull these a little bit so that you get nice and flat. Right? You don't want it to, you know, create a little bubble on the back. And then you can focus on matching the plaid a little better. You can kind of finesse it even better and it'll be more invisible. So this is your backup plan, right? And these thicknesses here, you know, they may kind of grief you a little bit. They're going to grief me a little bit. So if you're doing something thick, you can hammer it a little bit. I know that sounds crazy, but it really does work. I kind of want to get one of those quilt rollers for instead of hammering, so I don't have to hammer on camera. All right. See that when I pulled it apart. Because if you don't pull this, you'll get a little like, you'll get a little bubble like this, right? What if that happened and you stitched it down and you got this weird little tuck? You don't want that to happen, so just prevent it now. I know it's a lot to manage, but you can do it. And you'll be so much happier. You don't have to go back and take it out. And taking out seams on flannels and thready fabrics is not, no fun. And we're having fun, right? All right. This is definitely making me go, am I going to go to all this trouble for my brothers? I love him, so I want to. But I also want to get him his shirts fast. So, and I've been trying to think of something nice to get Cricket for her birthday, and I'm not sure what I want to do. And I really don't have much time to spare. It's like I'm getting so hung up on doing something special, I get nothing toward anything done. All right, so sewing through this tube is a little tricky, but it's possible. All right, so let's iron this one. Yeah, I totally agree, Nikki. Exactly. I can't remember how I sewed his other one, but I'm pretty sure I did flat felt seam, so he might be like, wait, this one's different. He would never, though. He is the nicest, most thankful guy. He is so generous and sweet. So handy. All right. If you don't have a salami like me, I sometimes don't use it at all. See, like we'll just do it. I might get a little bit of a fold there. I'm putting most of the pressure here. That. And then I would immediately get rid of some of that just to make sure you're not creating anything. If you're doing a linen, you might want to be more careful. All right, and so now let's fold this over. If your fabric is nice and crisp, this step is so much easier. You can tell I'm not really folding it to meet the edge. It should, but I don't feel that dexterous with this thready fabric. I like that, Nikki. I was just thinking, like, maybe what if I just, or even if I just did French seams, which they can be a lot faster, you know? I could do French seams on his shirt a lot faster than this. And then you can always top stitch the French seam down. It's bulkier, though. I'd have to add to the seam allowance on one side. Yeah, or just overlock it and top stitch it down. I think that's great. And he wears the shirt I gave him, which I love, you know. And I know he does it not when I'm around too, because I've accidentally run into him and he's wearing it. And I'm like, yeah. And he does, like, he works in, you know, in the yard in it. Like, he doesn't, I love that he just wears it. He doesn't hold it precious, because that's what I always tell people. It's more precious to me if you wear it. All right, so here I'm gonna trim down this underarm seam a little bit, and I'm gonna trim down all this thready stuff that I have already trimmed down once. I am losing my fabric seam allowance as we sew. Thankfully, this fabric is easy to iron. Look at all that. That's come back since I trimmed it. I didn't trim the narrow edge. I just trimmed the wider one. Hello, Heidi. Oh. Ooh, that's such a good tip. Thank you. And do you think I could use that in place of a hammer? Because I sew a lot of jeans and denim. And there's a lot of times I could probably be hammering the seam more often, and I just don't because, you know, because it's a Heidi. It's a hammer, you know, and I have to get up, I have to find it. It's loud, it's annoying. To get flannel fabric online, are you in the States, Big C? Where are you at regionally, if you don't mind me asking? Barbara, exactly. All right. No, I unthreaded my needle. All right, bye. That's it for today. Figure it out. No, I'm just teasing. Okay, so flannel fabrics online. Everyone's going to start putting in their things. I shop at, my favorite places are Hearts Fabric in Santa Cruz, California. Blackbird Fabrics is in Canada, but I love their selection a lot. And Minerva.com is in England, but their shipping is actually really affordable and it's not very slow at all. And that's where this one came from. This is the Robert Kaufman Mammoth, what's it called? Mammoth Plaid. So you can find that a lot of places in the United States. And there's a ton of different ones, a ton of different like Mammoth Plaids. And then, who else, guys? I'm trying to think who I've shopped from lately that has the plaid flannel. I feel like Blackbird is probably the best choice, honestly. If you shop at Hearts, we have a discount, and it'll almost cover your shipping, which is 10 SCW, SCW at Hearts Fabric. Okay, I need to match my plaids. Thank you, Diane. That was nice of you. I'm not sure why the alert didn't come up yet. Why isn't it coming up? Oh yeah, Stone Mountain and Daughter. You could do Stone Mountain and Daughter. They're in California as well. They have a really great selection of fashion fabrics. I wouldn't call this Mammoth Plaid, I should be clear, it's not technically a true flannel, but it is softer. It's almost like it is brushed on one side a little bit. All right, so I'm gonna use my awl to match my plaid. This is so satisfying. I'm really enjoying this. Oh, really, Karen? Did they have a plaid or flannels? Because Mood would be probably proximity-wise better for Big C. Right, because they're shipping from New York. Plaid, wow. 2 load of fabrics, wow. You've got some sewing ahead of you there. All right, that's my underarm right there. And so now we're in this, we're getting into our sleeve. So make sure you're not going to sew onto your sleeve. So like I said, I don't have my slit cut in the placket. So maybe this would have been a good argument to do the placket first, because we would have our, that whole slit would be really nice right now in making this opening a little easier. Yeah, I bet they have some nice stuff. Why didn't Diane get the alert? There it is. Never enough time, exactly. So this feels really, really tight. I'm not going to worry too much about my plaid matching on the upper sleeve. I'm going to try and focus it on the lower part. This is really hard, to be honest. If you had pinned this too, the pins would be poking the heck out of you right now. And I don't really have a solution for this. This is just one of those things. Sometimes you just got to suck it up, buttercup, and just focus on those 2 inches in front of you under the needle and tune out everything else out and just be like, all right, I'm just focused on this 2 inches. This is crazy. This is tight right here. You can feel this whole ball right here, and it feels like you're about to sew on your garment. Just focus on those 2 inches and you'll get there. Think, you know, doing all that ironing and prep helps. And right now, you know, honestly, the placket being open, I don't think that would help that much. We're almost there though, boy. Maybe just sewing your sleeve and then setting it into the armhole. But let me tell you, I've done it on camera before, and flat felling an armhole seam in the round, it's a little hard. It's like you're trading one thing for another, to be honest. It's possible. I've done it on camera. And I probably said that this is a better way. It kind of is, because having your sleeve continuous right here, it does, like, see, because this is your underarm seam, right? And so this right here being a straight seam, look at it, it's kind of boardy. It wants to do that. Whereas if your sleeve was in a circle right here, it increases the mobility of the sleeve. Hangs better. Not bad. It's a little wiggly here. That wasn't easy though. My allergies are so much better today, but I can tell they're kind of like, hey, let's make your life heck. All right. So now I'm gonna, same thing. Unfortunately, the body of my garment is going to go through the throat space here now. So we're going to focus on our plaid matching. I do love how flat this flat felled seam is as opposed to the way I've sewn it before. Yes, I know that's wider. Shush. Okay. All right, now we're getting into the meat and potatoes. All right, so I'm pulling that seam apart, plus trying to get that fold down. Right, Elena. Oh, Style Maker. I don't think I've ever shopped from there. Style Maker had some plaids. Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to think of who I've gotten, you know, emails from lately. I don't know, does Melanated Fabrics or Closet Core Fabrics have some plaids and flannels? Honestly, if I had to shop one place forever and ever, I don't know if I could pick, but I'd probably pick two places. And it'd probably be Hearts and Blackbird. Every time Blackbird does a post, I'm like, you guys just need to stop it. They like the kind of fabrics I like, though. It's very, very obvious, you know? Like, you can tell what kinds of things that a fabric store, maybe they know that their customers really like polyester knits with really great prints. I've never heard of Firecracker Fabrics. That's adorable. You know, because I would say that would be Minerva, but it's not. Minerva has like just so many fabrics. So, and I thought maybe it would be kind of, and I have to be honest too, like I don't price check, like I don't go, oh, how much is this mammoth plaid at this place as opposed to this place, because I just don't, because sometimes when I find something, I'm like, oh, finally I found something, right? So that's great. And on Minerva, they send this to me for free, so I haven't price checked it. So I'm really sorry about that. I can't say, because it could be different, because they may be doing some sort of conversion rate because of the you know, pound versus the dollar. This is an American company, but it's not made in America, so maybe they can drop ship directly there, and then that just makes the price the same there as it is here. I don't know. I could be just totally talking out my ear. I don't know. All right, I made it. Firecrackers in Pittsburgh. Oh, okay. Oh, Terri with the brilliant plan. That's so smart. All right, how did I do? Pretty good. What do you guys think? Look at how nice and flat that seam is. And this is what a flat felled seam looks like on the inside. You've seen it on the inside of your jeans. It's so clean, right? There you can see my stitching right there. All right. Guess what? We're at the sleeve plackets. Woo woo. We have a shirt though. It's looking really good. Let's look at that. Plaid matching. I'm happy with it. A little stiff through here. I think maybe washing it will, you know, kind of soften this up a bit. But I'm happy. All right, so now we're going to do the sleeve. All right, so if you're doing the Fairfield sleeve placket, I have a dedicated video for this, just in case you don't want the long version. It is very instructional, but you can put the speed up, and there's timestamps, so if you're looking for a specific step. So, like I said at the beginning of the stream, I add 1/8 of an inch to this long edge here. So this is the pattern piece. See that purple? I add that, and then I move this notch down here over 1/8 of an inch as well. So then you just line that up and then put the notch there. All right. So those are the things I do differently. It's not that the pattern's incorrect. I just find it a lot easier to sew it that way. Maybe your collar or your tower placket pattern doesn't really need that, you know. So, all right. So this is the front of the sleeve, and this is the back of the sleeve. All right. And so let's see, that was the left sleeve, and this is right here, the left sleeve, and this is the right placket. This is the right placket. So this is the correct placket. That would be helpful. to know, correct? We could look at the directions too. I have a cheat sheet here for myself that I wrote down. I am not Wonder Woman. Once I've sewn a couple, it's easy. Like right now, I don't think I need this, but what I need is the, this is the one good thing about dropping magnets with an industrial machine is that they grab the machine. What I need is to make sure I'm doing the correct placket on the correct sleeve. So in these instructions, you can see that they have sleeve back written right here, right? So if this is my front sleeve and that's my back right there, we'll do the other one first. Although that is the wrong side. See, doing this, oh my gosh, you guys, you got to do this open. You have to do this open. You can't do this with the seam undone. Oh my gosh. So Penny, don't do your underarm seam until you've done your plackets. Here I am doing it out of order because I didn't want to do the cuff separate. Oh my gosh, okay. Well, it's okay. We're just going to do a little bit. Sorry. That's so funny that I couldn't remember that. And I've done so many of these with just like a sample and not the whole thing. So I'm sorry. After all that. Rip. We'll just take out a little bit. Something felt funny, but you know, sewing drama. You guys love it. Had to forget one thing on this project, right? How far do I want to go up? I'm going to go up to like right here. I hate taking out seams in this kind of fabric, you know? Drink. All right. Sorry. If you want, I'll just do one on the camera, so you don't have to suffer through me taking out the other one. And at least if you're in the future, you can just fast forward past me doing this. I can't see the thread. Oh, you are so not. Penny, feel free to always say, are you sure you want to do that? It's kind of, I think it's like, when I'm live streaming, it's like one of those things where you can't see the forest for the trees sometimes. And I was really focused on making sure I did those flat felled seams the way they were intended this time. Walter. So it's like, I didn't think about the order as much because we did the collar before the sleeves yesterday anyway, because that's the way I like to put a sleeve together, a shirt together. I like to do the sleeves last. It's just a lot less under your needle when you're doing the collar, you know, like you can just, it's a less garment going, like flipping around. I do stuff like this all the time, Diane. All right, where's those? Might be easier to do it from this side, to be honest, because you can see your stitches better. There we go. All right, so do we have a good chunk? Okay, we have a good chunk there. This is one of those things where in instructions, and maybe it says this, I like little tips like that, like, because I do just look at the bullet points for instructions. I rarely look at like all the steps to do one step, right? So if it's like, now you're going to put the collar and collar stand on, I just do it, right? Unless there's something like I know that that designer does something a certain way and they have seam allowances different, then I kind of look it over, you know? So I don't tend to look at the steps, so I do miss things sometimes, and I would appreciate sometimes them saying, you know, make sure you do your placket before your, I don't know why they would say that though. All right, so there we go. We'll do this one first. All right, so this is the, we're gonna look at this on the underside. This is the front of my sleeve. This is the back of my sleeve. This is the inside. All right, so this notch that's closest to the back of the sleeve, that's where we're gonna line up our placket to. And so I think I need the other placket. That's right here, okay. Right? Oh, no, I do have the correct placket. Yeah, because you want the tall side away from the back. So you want the shorter side closer to the back. And this is the wrong side of the fabric. This is the right side. So I'm going to draw my box on here. And I'm going to show you how to do that too. So remember, I kind of moved this over 1/8 of an inch. So we're going to line it up like this onto the fabric here. And I fold this back. That should line up to the notches. Okay. Lining up my edge here. I'm going to fold it along this box, draw part of it. I'm going to fold it here at the top of this box. I'm going to fold it right here at the top too. And then trace it on this side. Like that. You might not need the whole box, but just so that you have these corners up here and, you know, generally where you're going to be at. All right, so let's do this one now. These caps, man, they're kind of violent to take them off. I'm going to go a little past like that so that I can do the top and then this one here. This box, it measures, I can tell you what it measures just in case yours doesn't have this, but you should. It's 1/2 inch wide, and I want to say I know what it is, but I don't want to guess. I think it's it's 6 inches long. Yeah, 6 inches. I find this, honestly, I find this placket a little too long. Like when I see it on the guys in my life, I'm like, it's such a big opening right there, you know? All right, so you want the one with the shorter side going towards the back of your sleeve. Oh, wait. We want to do this from the wrong side, don't we? Yeah, we want to do this from the wrong side. Yeah. Okay, just making sure. Wrong side. I don't want to make any, once I make one mistake, I'm like, oh no. All right, and then you're going to match up the center of this box right there to that notch that's closest, the slit basically. If you didn't slit it, like I didn't slit it, right? I just put a little notch there. You're gonna center that box over that notch right there, which is the slit of your sleeve. Now, I'm also gonna make sure that I have this straight on here because of the plaid. You could always chalk that, that slit line of your sleeve onto the shirt and then just make sure it's in the center of your box. All right, so I'm gonna pin it in a couple spots. And now we're gonna sew this box all the way around. I'm gonna decrease my stitches a little bit just because this fabric is so thready. I'm gonna go all the way around this box. We're gonna stop at the needle, stop with our needle down at the top there. I did cut this out so that my plaid matches, but I was kind to myself and I lined it up so that the placket would land not in the middle of a plaid. I put it so that it was in a less noticeable area. All right, so let's see how I did. Okay, that looks parallel to that plaid, which is nice. And now we're gonna cut it. So when you get to these corners, you want to get right up into the corner there. This determines how crisp your box is going to be. It's not like a welt pocket though. You just need to be able to turn it to the other side, right? I didn't really nail that little spot right there. I don't think it's going to give me problems, but can you see that little stitch is a little below my box? Probably not, it's a little bright, huh? All right, so now we're gonna do a lot of ironing. Oh, does it? Yeah, it does have a placket. All right, so I have all these notches at the bottom of here, and we're gonna pretty much be ironing on everything. So, but first we're going to just iron this edge that we just sewed. It'll make it easier later to turn it. So just kind of iron it flat. And same with this up here. I can't believe I did that. I'm still mad at myself. How many of these have I made? 7? All right, so now let's just turn this and get a nice little crisp thing at the top there. We don't really need to, you don't need this to be crisp opening. Just do it at the top, right here of your box. Just iron that down. All right, and so now go back to the other side, and we're just gonna iron all these edges along these notches. So there's one here, which is 1/4 of an inch away from this edge here. This is the under placket. So say we were just doing a bias placket, this would be kind of like that. This is what this little side is. It's just the one that goes under. And now we're gonna iron that one. And where this fold line should go is just past that stitch line, because that's what's gonna happen when it's on the right side. And that should be along the notch there. Maybe you want a nice parallel folded section here. All right. All right, now that one's ready. Now we're gonna do the same thing on this side. We're gonna fold on all these little lines here. So we have this 1/4 inch seam here. And we have, isn't there one there? There's one right here. And this is the one that goes just past. And so, see, this is, I don't know, was it Kathleen that asked me why I add the 1/8 inch here? And this is why. So at this notch right here, we're gonna iron it. This is creating that column that you're gonna see right on the right side. And so without this extra 1/8 inch, this falls a little short and you're over rotating. So that's why I add it. Again, if you're not using the Fairfield, you might not have that issue. So this, do I have to do this from the other side? I can't remember because I don't clip into here either. Don't do that. fold along that line as well. That little notch there. And that's going to fold back this edge here like this. See that? That's what you're going for. That's what it should look like. Fold that all the way down. All right, and now we're gonna form the like decorative part of the placket. I'm trying to get this now because my sleeve's sewn in there. I'm trying to find an easy way to do this. Oh, Nikki, thanks. I don't know how wise I am if I did that thing earlier. Let's see. We could do it like this. All right. So, well, can we? Yeah, we're gonna do it like this. All right. So, because my sleeve is attached. All right. So we're gonna fold this down. So I know this looks kind of crazy. Here's that. I just kind of have it split apart so I can get in here. Fold this down to that raw edge so that it meets right there, okay? Make sure you tuck in these little corners here. Now, if you're doing really thick fabric, this might get a little tricky. You do not have to turn down the corners. You could have a straight placket like this. So if you're having a lot of trouble, be creative. You don't have to do the traditional shape. Let's get rid of these orange threads here since they're griefing me a little bit. And now this is when you form this little point of the top of your placket there. So now look at how thick this is right here. What if we trimmed, let's see, which way would it be? I think if I trimmed this off. Let's see what it looks like. I'll experiment on mine. Yeah, so if I could do a little cutout right there, a little corner, it's going to be less bulky. So that's what I did. I just trimmed a little corner. You don't have to do that. My fabric's getting pretty bulky there because I interfaced. And it doesn't call for interfacing. I just interfaced it because my fabric is obviously very thready. Honestly, you could just trim that whole thing off, but it's okay. There we go. So now we have our corners. There's a few ways to do this. I'm just going to stick to the way that this placket is intended to be sewn, but there's a lot of different styles of column plackets and stuff. All right, so now this is ready to sew. Let's turn it to the right side and we'll kind of prep it a little bit more. All right. So this is, put that seam allowance toward the little like under placket side, repress this edge here. This is the shorter side, right? And now when we go to sew this, I'm going to show you on this camera, I'll show you on the machine cam. Do you see that this is the shorter side, right? Not the fancy side. Now, when I have this just folded and wrapping around the seam allowance, basically you're just enclosing the seam allowance of this cut edge right here, right? And then up here, what happens is a little pleat gets formed. Do you see that? Little pleat right there? That is normal. There's nothing wrong. Just ignore it. It's just part of the magic that's about to happen. All right. Now we're going to sew, and then we're done with that. I almost just put stream ending because I said that because I was about to click the machine cam. All right. So let's sew the short side first, right? And then I'll think about, you know, matching my plaids right now if I can. Meow. Camera's behaving a lot better today. I don't think I can. Look at that. I'm a little off. See that? This is the under placket, but still, it means my other side's probably a little off too. Now, you don't actually have to backstitch this because it is going to get enclosed, but we'll backstitch because I know that makes people question me. Just keep all this out of the way and top stitch this down at the top here. Ooh, I got pushed away a little bit there. It's because I have to hold my sleeve so weirdly because it's all sewn together. There we go. All right, so now we have our placket, the under placket there. Remember, when you're doing this stuff that it can be a little confusing, just focus on what you're working on in that moment, those 4 inches, all right? All right, and so now you're going to sew this side, all right? So let's just pin a few things here. This is it. This is the moment of truth, and it's not going to be hard, I promise. Except when you use bent pins. And if your sleeve is sewn together, that does not make it easy. All right, so now you can start seeing it form, right, like this. Now this placket, like I said, it makes that little accordion pleat, and it just lays along the top of your box, right? Just like that. Just like that, right? So let's just do a couple pins here, and then we're going to pin it shut just to kind of stabilize it a little bit while we're sewing. Because you want this, you don't want this to spread out like this when you start sewing the top down or over rotate, you know. You want this to be just nice and flat, neutral, right? So kind of line all this up just like this. Make sure, you know, the plaid really helps me kind of get a nice straight line there. And I can just put a few pins right here, closing this. We're not going to touch this side over here, so these pins won't be in the way or anything. We're going to go across the top up here as well and enclose all of this hoo-ha in there. So this is just helping us keep it straight so we don't have to worry about that part, right? So thanks again, Nikki. That's nice of you. Which one, Penny? Which one got you? Your task today is finishing up seams at the side seams along the sleeves. Nice, Chaz. Make sure you do your placket first. Learn from me. All right, and so up here, this is all just, you know, pressed, right? We just lay that down, you're going to stitch it down. I mean, that's pretty much it. It's as simple as that. Just don't catch your sleeve under there because you were silly enough to sew the side seam. All right. It's pretty thick. All that's going to get caught under there. Could I just like put that under there? Maybe. I don't know. The interfacing is really making it thick too. So one thing I like to note at this point is where is this at right here? Okay, because that's what we want to enclose. So make a note of where the top of the box was that we first sewed right there. And for me, it's the top of this plaid line right here. Just make a little note of that. And on the inside, I did just show, okay, there. On the inside, see, this is that plaid line. That plaid line is right here. So I actually could go a little higher. Oh, this is the top of the plaid line. So see right here, this is what we're about to sew. Let's get rid of some of these threads since we see them now. We don't have to immortalize them. That's why I also don't like to do back stitches right there, because they add to the thread drama. All right, so that's what it's looking like in there. I get obsessed with threads. All right, let's sew it. So we're sewing on this long edge here. And you're just kind of thinking about keeping it so that it stays straight, it's not torquing or anything like that, you know. So, oh, you're matching the wrong spot. Yeah, it's so easy to do, Penny. I've definitely sewn different styles of this. It's been a while, like, I can't even think because there were such old patterns. I feel like this could be the only pattern in my life that has a shirt sleeve placket right now. It would be nice to have another one just to sew different styles. All right, so here we are at the top, right? Here's that pin. We're just gonna pass on by this first time, okay? And we're just edge stitching it. I'm really concerned about my sleeve getting caught back there. Hopefully you're not. And then we're just stitching down our point. Because of the way we folded it, like if you want to get clever and go, ooh, I'm just going to cut my placket so it doesn't have all these crazy folds and thicknesses. So just be careful that you don't create an edge that where it folds is a slit and then the little frays kind of poke out. Okay, Penny. Is it really that late? Oh my goodness, it is getting there. Okay. So now I'm going to come down the side. I'm going to go over where that pin is, which is for me at the top of that plaid. And I don't want to slide all my tools off the back of my machine, so I'm going to grab them. What's right here? What's this? It's my beloved awl. Okay, there we go. See? And now we're going across. And that's it. You're done. If you want, you can add another stitch going across right here. A lot of folks do that. It looks nice. Sometimes you see, you know, the X, you know, and then the stitches here with an X in the box. You can make it taller if you want to accommodate other types of, you know, embellished stitches. So, all right, so there's your placket. And so this kept it nice and straight. You weren't in any danger of catching that side because this is it and this is what we just stitched. Get my thread tail out of there. There we go. And that's it. That's what it looks like on the inside. Can trim all of our back stitch threads. All right. I hate threads. So sorry that I get caught up on them. All right. There we go. Now, I gotta fix my underarm. All right, so let's take out just a few more of these. All right, there we go. Okay. Get rid of these threads and no one will ever know. Except you guys, and you guys won't tell. Better not. YouTube tells me where each of you guys live. I know your credit card numbers. I'm just teasing. Okay. My favorite part, stitching this again. Let's see if I can go up from the placket since I have that nice opening now at least. I feel like it got a little bigger. Get in there, threads. You're gonna stay in there forever. Snuggling up and having a party inside my seam allowances. All right. Almost there. It's really fiddly, resewing anything, right? Here's the end right here. Home stretch. Phew. All right. Let's trim that thread up there. back to normal. All right, there's our sleeve, ready for a cuff. You'd never tell, thank you. Here's my secret safe with you. All right, should we do one cuff? That way, if you don't want to stay for the other placket, I do not blame you one bit. All right, so your pleats right here, there's only one pleat on the Fairfield. Some shirts have two pleats. They pleat toward the placket because think of this as like a center front opening with the button closure, and the button placket goes over like this. So the pleat is kind of mimicking that kind of look like that, right? And so my suggestion with that little pleat is to make sure you're pleating it on the seam line. This sounds really silly, like I think to a lot of folks to stress that. But let me tell you something. When you are struggling so often to like get your cuff to fit on there and you're like, why doesn't my cuff always fit? A lot of times it's just this silly pleat because you pleated it down here, right? And then it kind of opened up at the seam line there. And even an 1/8 of an inch on either side, that adds 1/4 of an inch. So if you're off even more than that, you're getting into the 3/8 inch range. 3/8 inch off on your cuff, come on. You want that back, right? So, find your seam line. Where is the seam allowance on this? Is it 1/2 inch? I don't even know. I'm going to sew it right here for now. I did not need a back stitch. I don't know why I did that. And then that way that you have your pleat, it's straight up and down, and you've sewn it on the seam line so that you're taking up the exact amount so that the cuff will fit. We're about that cuff fitting, right? All right, let's get our cuff, and we'll double check it too because I've ironed one with the interfacing and I haven't the other, so it could be a different size. Let's check. Even though it's pre-washed, sometimes interfacing can shrink it a little bit. Gotta love it. Or not, right? Means you're already easing that in. Okay. Let's check it. I'm going to check the seam allowance on this too. Let's see what we're up against right off the bat. Look at that. Why is that? Is that because this fabric is getting bigger and bigger? We could add another little pleat. Let's check our seam allowance though, so we know what we're at. My instructions are so catty. Place the cuff, stitch along the outer edge using 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, wait, so just fold under the top edge of the cuff 1/2 inch. There's a lot of different seam allowances on each piece, isn't there? Fold under the top edge of the cuff facing 1/2 inch. Place the cuff and cuffing on the right side. So you gotta stitch along the outer edge. All right, so it looks to me like the seam allowance around the curved edge is 1/4 inch. And the seam allowance for the cuff to the body is 1/2 inch. So if that's 1/4 inch there, I'm still kind of struggling there. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make my pleat I'm going to make 2 smaller pleats. We're not talking about a whole lot, and as long as my cuff is finishing what it's supposed to, we're fine. The pleat can be bigger or smaller. That's your kind of variable. As long as your cuff ends up being what it was supposed to be, it's going to fit. Go by the cuff. See, I shouldn't have backstitched that, huh? So if I do maybe 1 pleat here, let's do that one. And then I'm going to look at my smaller cuff here. 1/4 inch on the seam line there. Don't pull. My fabric is so loosey-goosey. So I need another inch pleat. So like right there. So I needed like 2 1-inch pleats. Like that. In my video, it works perfectly and I don't have problems at all because I'm using quilting cotton. And quilting cotton is so much more forgiving. Why is this still growing? Maybe I should use a stay stitch on this fabric. That's one thing we've learned with this fabric is that it's kind of the wild west on it. It is a little bit. I don't want that to fall behind this pleat though. Like this. All right. And now I'm going to put in a little stay stitch so my sleeve stops growing. Oh, Chaz, the struggle is real, isn't it? Honestly, it doesn't work that great for garments. And we all struggle with that exact same thing, is that most fabric stores have turned into quilting fabric stores, and they are really cute, like really cute prints. And I definitely succumb to temptation and buy them too, and I use them for like pocket linings for jeans. You know, if this was a really thick fabric, I would use it as the yoke facing maybe. I've made dresses with quilting cotton, but I put it on the bias. It's good for structured things. It doesn't have a lot of drape. It's very, I was about to say it's very stable. It's not actually. Poplin is more stable, or a lawn would be more stable. Poplin and lawn, if your fabric store has poplins and lawns, those are going to be a little better for garment sewing. A lot of quilting stores sell art gallery fabrics, and they use a fabric that, even though they're marketing it to quilters, it is pretty good for tops and things like that. Like I've made a few tops lately out of their fabrics because it's like a poplin lawn cross. I think they call it a lawn, but it's a little crisper than that. Lawn can be a little drapier. So yeah, you might just have to start experimenting with finding someone you like to order with online, because that is really tricky. You'll kind of hit a wall at a point where you're like, I just don't want my garments to be made out of quilting cotton anymore. You know? So, all right, so this little uneven bit here, I'm going to even that up. And I'm just kind of looking over the whole thing like, can I even, I don't want it to get the not straight with the plaid, you know? All right, so the other thing we're going to do, we're going to make sure it's even going across like this. So the plaid doesn't match that great. But let's look at our placket here, right over left, see, and make sure that it's going to match. This edge right here can get a little bit longer than this one because this one's been turned under and stitched, so it's a little tighter. So you may need to kind of tame that a little bit. But I think, I mean, I'm pretty good. I feel like this is a little bit longer, you know? So. Yeah, there you go, Walter. You could try it. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of quilting cottons that aren't like Kona cotton or like a traditional quilting cotton. And so you guys might be using something marketed as a quilting cotton, but it is actually like a poplin or a lawn, like the Art Gallery brand. There's quite a few folks switching to using that kind of fabric, like Cloud 9. Their fabrics are like that. I'm blanking on another one. I want to say Andover, but I don't think so. Some of In the Beginnings are very nice too. There you go. So Elena's found some. Yeah, what I found is I made an Archer button-up out of a quilting cotton, and I just found it kind of boardy and stiff. But it's not that it's not the right weight. It's just that it's a little scratchy and stiff. Some of the cotton and steel, yeah. Yeah. Ruby Star, yeah. They're still kind of thick, though. Like, you wouldn't make, I mean, you can. The thing is, once you see the difference using something that's really intended for garments, it's a big difference, you know? So, all right, let me get to this. All right, so if you've been here at all, you know that I like to sew my cuffs and waistbands and things from the inside of the garment to the outside. And I can't stress this enough. I know a lot of people are just like, nope, never going to do it that way. Oh, but I'm telling you, it's a lot easier. So let's get rid of some of these little threads here because I don't want them sneaking out of my seam. So I just get rid of them now. These are my little pleat stitches. Remember, I added an extra pleat to get my diameter correct. And I'm going to be using the uninterfaced side, which is actually going to be the easier one to sew with. So I'm going to line this up. So this is the wrong side of my sleeve, the inside of my sleeve. Right side of my cuff is going to that side, and we're going to sew it at a 1/2 inch seam. I'm only hanging off 1/4 inch because apparently that's the seam allowance. And I think that's a good seam allowance for a curved hem anyway. So right now I'm going to think about this plaid stripe here. Remember I told you guys, try not to cut out your plaid that you have to deal with sewing perfectly on a plaid stripe. But I knew on the cuff I set myself up for that because we had to do it once, right? So I'm going to make sure I'm not pulling on my cuff because I don't want it to get any bigger. See you, Walter. I love how you call us a podcast. So funny. Oh yeah, birchwood. Birchwood is a lot like Cloud 9. I totally agree. I love their fabrics. If you can feel the fabric ahead of time, it makes a big difference. You made a bucket hat of quilting cotton. That's perfect. I think quilting cotton would be a great bucket hat. The peppermint patty top of the quilting cotton. I don't know. I would definitely cut it on the bias, Danny, because Libby made one on the bias, and it looks like a completely different top. It's so cute. I saw it in the Patreon Zoom, and oh my goodness, I really want to make another one of those now with a fabric on the bias. It almost made it look like a rayon, but her sleeve still had body, you know. Look at this. Now my cuff seam looks too small. All right. But we all know that this is a little smaller, right? It goes to like right here. So that's going to be probably perfect. Yeah, look at that. All right, cool. All right, so look at that. I sewed this along that plaid seam. Now, double check again that when you're going to overlap, this is the thing with cuffs. They're not that bad, but there's a lot of matching going on. So if you don't make sure that this is still matching right here at the seam line, you'll end up having a cuff that starts off like unmatched, and it's so frustrating. You do this beautiful job. This is like a classic ceremony thing to do for a while. I do a beautiful job sewing it, but I would forget that because I'd be so hung up on sewing it correctly that I would forget to check things like that. Ugh. Same with my waistbands. So, really, Elena? That's so funny. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to sew this cuff. We're going to put this right sides together. And I'm going to sew around this perimeter rounded edge. Wildlife! You don't want to catch this edge of your sleeve, so just go right next to it. And when you're sewing around, if yours has this curve, I always say you know, try and not stop when you're going around the curve. I'm going to line this up all the way down. You'll get a smoother curve. It's harder than you think though. And I didn't really stick with the curve today. All right, so this one goes to about right there because this one shrink. And now I'm looking at the plaid. Hopefully you cut it, you know, pretty straight. Let's trim this edge off right now so that I don't have to wonder where it's at. There we go. Did I just... I don't know, I did this right. I just like, because my fabric doesn't have a right or wrong side, I got a little confused just now. Didn't I fold this back? Oh no, I didn't. Okay, that's what it was, okay. Oh, this fabric is so wiggly. All right, I'm gonna kind of compare my curves here. I'm going to trim this down and probably notch it. Don't you love how Walter told me to sew both plaid? I knew he was going to do this. I almost said something. He's like, no, 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 you should stay and sew both. Hey, Amanda, welcome. And then he takes off. Wow. Yeah, it is kind of like a mini collar. Remember when I did this one, I kind of came in a little bit. Let's see how similar these curves are, because I don't think they are. Let's see here. You really can see it on this side. They really look asymmetrical too. Yeah, I think I'm just going to smooth this one out right here. Stitches always look so wiggly when you see it on the interfacing, so I try not to look. All right, and now again, check to make sure your cuff is still going to turn out. And don't look at your cut edges, look at your seam lines. Cut edges will lie. Yeah, so this one I can bring down a tiny bit. I just hope that doesn't bring my plaid to not match. All right, now I'm gonna notch into this little curve so I get a nice smooth curve. Just clip into it, not notch in. I always say that. I mean clip, 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 clip. All right, now we're gonna turn. I did do this wrong. Oh, did I say I did this wrong? And I just did this wrong. When I was sitting there, I just did this wrong. Jeremy's not having a good sewing day. I knew it. Did you guys catch that when I was like, wait a second. Not having the right and wrong side of the fabric is kind of throwing me off right now. Plus I'm hungry. Right, Nancy? I knew he would. That's so funny. I knew I did that wrong, but I still went forward because I was like, stop doubting, Jeremy. You're just paranoid. Yes, you witnessed it. You guys, I love how you don't call me on it. You're like, we need the a command for intuition. I'm blaming this on Walter. This is all Walter's fault. Always blame Walter. No. Walter's very inspirational. He's not telling you guys how much he sews. He gets some really massive projects done. Like he is pretty impressive what he accomplishes. And his determination really impresses me too, because he'll like set a goal and he really crushes it. This is still his fault though, just so you know. After, you know, especially because I triple sewed this, that was the sewing fairy right there. She was like, yo, you need to check that. I know, right, Lynn? What's our backup plan? Like, if you have this happen and you're just like, wow, this is unrecoverable after I take out all this stitching, it's too hard to sew, cut yourself another one if you have the fabric, you know? take out all the little threads, press it. If you can't you cut it again, press it and try and get it back to its original shape. Right, Nancy? That's my plan. Yeah, that sewing fairy, man. She's like, I don't like how easy that collar went together. I don't like that you tried something new yesterday and it went well. I knew. I was like, there's something about this that looks different. Sometimes when you've sewn something a lot, it's not helpful. I'm sick of not having every time I make the Fairfield, I also never use fabric that has a right and wrong side. Come on. Last little bit. We'll get there though. What do you think about having the camera on the left? You guys never really commented. Think it was better there or on the machine? See, for me, it looks cleaner. But you do lose some space. Yes, that's it. It keeps growing on me a little bit. And the thing is, it's very deceptive because it doesn't look like it's growing. Because usually fabrics that are growing, the edge looks a little loose. And the thing is, I think with this kind of dark print, it doesn't look loose, but my indication is all the threads. Right there. That is right there proof. You like it on the left? You did, Terry? I'm sorry. Yeah, this pattern and I love it, and yet every time I do something kind of major. Okay. Get rid of all these little threads. So did I put that on the... Yeah, that's the... Yeah. You do it on this side. Exactly. Oh my God. I don't even know how I did that now. Okay. All right, so that, you know what also tipped me off was that this wasn't turned up. Because remember I said, isn't that turned up? I've sewn these enough to know that that this edge is always turned up at this point. And you have to make a choice. Do I leave it turned up or do I flatten it out? I'm gonna hang this off a little bit. In fact, let's look at this width because it's kind of getting bigger that way too. Yeah, I'm gonna trim off a tiny bit of this long edge here. I'm doing that because this is the uninterfaced one and it's just a little bigger between it not being interfaced and the fabric kind of relaxing a little bit. And I really need enough seam allowance to turn up on this one. This is the smaller one. So I want it to hang down, you know, that amount there. All right. Oh, Walter. Yep, exactly, Barbara. Ah, Terry, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I switched it today. I did that because I had watched my video on how to sew the shirt sleeve placket while I was like doing my hair this morning. And I was like, you know, I just like the camera over there. But I moved it to the right-hand side because folks wanted more space here. And I totally agree. I just think that the camera being on top of here looks messy. It's distracting to me. We'll have to double check that we got all of our clips. And when I'm doing right here, I always make sure it's just straight up and down and parallel. All right, so let's see. Did I sew straight on the plaid? For the most part, I'm going to straighten this out right here. I don't think you can see it, but there's this light green line. And now let's look at my clips. Make sure none of them went past the seam line. All right, and then lastly, we're going to check our width and make sure. I think this side might be a little longer. Or maybe not. Okay. Now we're going to turn it. See if I need to clip again. Probably. I mean, it's pretty close, actually. But I was a little shy. If you think those really fancy teachers don't make mistakes like this, they do. Ah, we're still here, Terry. I want some food. Oh, you have 10 yards of fabric. Well, that's good. I like that. That's the spirit, right? All right, I'm going to iron this a little bit. Okay. So I like to iron this cuff seam right here. Just give it a good press. Doesn't matter what direction. If you can do the curve, great. It'll fold on, or like fold on its little edge there a little easier if you've ironed that. So I'm waiting for this to heat up a little bit more. Do I leave the paper on the interfacing? You mean the one that comes in the bolt, like that, the instruction piece? Or are you talking about those kinds that are double fusible? Because usually there's no paper on the interfacing. There's the instructions, but yeah, I get rid of those. I'm just checking it out while my iron heats up. How's my plaid look? It looks okay. It looks pretty good here. You ironed it on. Why is there still paper on there? There shouldn't be paper on your interfacing once you've ironed it on. Unless it's double-sided. If it's double-sided, that's not really interfacing for garment making. All right, so right here, if it's not too wide, or I mean thick, you see how this is my sleeve right here. There's the placket. Here's my cuff, right? Here's my cuff, and here's the turned back first seam. So when I pull this, I'm going to open it like this, and I'm going to fold this over that seam allowance like that. See that? So this is the turned down edge. So push the seam allowance towards the cuff and fold it over like that. It makes it a lot cleaner and neater right there without any frayed edges. And this is the right side of the garment. So when we stitch this, this is the last stitch. So same here. It was Walmart stuff, and then we'll go on my iron after. Oh, that sounds like that's Wonder Under, Terry. Does the paper say anything? Do you know what it is? I don't know what Walmart carries, but I imagine they carry a few different things. So same on this side. Press the sleeve, the seam towards the cuff. This is the placket. And fold it over. And then fold it back. In other words, I'm just wrapping it around that seam allowance right there. And you don't want to be too tight, because see what happens is that it's too it's too high up above the seam. So just let out a tiny bit, let it relax. See, being a puller, this is where being a puller isn't good. That's it. No, just take it off after you iron it. So when you do take it off, what's on the side, what is it like? What is the surface like of the interfacing once you peel the paper off? It's not glue, is it? All right, I need to be careful with my plaid. I'm getting a little overzealous here. The plaid makes you sew straight, but it also kind of hinders you. Sticky mesh. Uh-oh. Yeah, so that is, yeah, like heat and bond. I think that that's a double-sided fusible interfacing, and that's good for when you want to iron it in between two layers of fabric. So it's almost like, you know how like there's double stick tape? That's what it's like. So it's got two sticky sides. And now when you iron it, it might iron onto whatever. So you've got to protect whatever's the wrong side of your interfacing. You got to protect whatever it's going to come into contact with. Uh-oh, yeah. Yeah, it sounds like Wonder Under to me. It did stick to your iron. Oof. All right, so you can get something called iron cleaner. It works a charm. It's so good to do. In fact, I need to do it, I think, on this one. I was looking. Oh, no, this one's not too bad. There's scratches, though, which is weird. But I think it was the one at home. My iron at home needs to be cleaned. It's kind of a weird gooey paste. So my plaid right there, like if I fold too far in, I'm going to have to kind of finesse that a little bit. I'm definitely getting punchy. All right, I don't really need to iron or pin all this. So one of my tricks I usually do before I do that is I like to pin right here. I just pin through both layers of the cuff. It would have helped me if I had done that. And what that does is it keeps it so that I don't over rotate, like pull this so that the seam lands there. Just make sure your cuff is folded or like on the seam right there, and then pin it so that it can't go past that point. This is really great if your cuff is on the fold right here. Kind of gives you a nice, make sure you keep your nice crisp, you know, cuff edge. Like that. And then fold it all up. Used a wet towel. Oh, perfect. Yeah, I think there are some things that will take it off. Magic erasers. Oh, there you go. Yeah, Wonder Under is really good for applique. What did I use it for recently? What did I use it for? I can't think of what I used it for recently. Remember we were playing around with it? Oh, was it the cocoon? Yeah, a cocoon. I fused two pieces of fabric together to make them one piece of fabric. Yeah, that's what it was. All right, so look at all these pins. That's the most pins you see me use. All right, so I usually start at the underarm seam of the sleeve. So here's the flat felled underarm seam. And then I go around and I start and stop here, not here. Backstitching right there is it's a problem. It just is a problem. You don't have to backstitch there. It doesn't matter if the instructions say to start there. You don't have to. You're not even being rebellious. You're just being smart. It's a pin yard sale. I'm not selling these pins, even though it is looking a little like a yard sale because I don't have my pin cushion. All right, so I'm gonna try and tuck this edge in a little bit. I push it towards the needle as well so that it doesn't like blump off the side toward me. We can get rid of all these now. Too many tools here. Hopefully my mistakes today will also make it so you don't make them yourself, right? I kind of pull the sleeve and I slide the top cuff down just so I make sure that seam stays right on the edge. I'm no tailor or shirt maker, but there's a few things you can do to kind of make it as nice as possible without getting into those really amazing techniques. All right, now I'm right there at that placket. See, no back stitches. Looks nice. Does put all your garment into the throat space of your machine. And then we're approaching the end here. And you want that fold to go just past the seam. And then when you stitch it down, it doesn't really matter where it lands on the underside. It's going to be fine. It's going to look good, right? So, because you're not worried about the inside, you're worried about the outside. So we just want to know where this lands. And that's why I always start this way. All right. I knew I got kind of onto my shirt on this side because I was more focused on sewing along the plaid edge. There's a lot of threads floating around from some seam ripping. But that's the inside, and here's the outside. There we go. It's looking pretty good. Oh, it goes more like right there. There we go. I like that plaid matching. It's subtle. Hi, April. How's it going? Shacket. I can't stand that word. No, it's not. It's just a Fairfield button up. You can make it into one, though. I have a whole series on turning the Archer button up into what everyone is calling a shacket, which I hate that word so much. I just made it into an overshirt. It's called the Archer button up overshirt or something like that. So yeah. Did I use wet for my bathroom rugs? Oh, the Wonder Under. No, it was on the cocoon. Nobody can make a back stitch if you don't want to. Yeah. That's one of my, like, sometimes I'll get a few comments about that on videos. But when you put the plaid line on the edge and pull it off, it looks very clean. Yeah. Yeah, like when it works, when you pull it off, it does look really good. Don't you think that's kind of a long placket, though? That's a really big hole. I think this thing could, like, easily be down right here. Maybe right here. What if it ended right there? I think that would look better. Would that look too short? All right. So I'll do the hem right now, but I'll spare you guys on the other one. Overshirt is the original word. I know, right, Nancy? Yeah, I can't stand that word. I can't stand the word poof either, like the floor poof. I don't like that word. I like hassock or like step stool or something like that. But you know, everybody's got to reinvent things, remarket it so it seems like, oh yay, now we're all into these. But it's like schlanket for when people knit things that are shawls that are so big they laughingly call them schlanket. Is it long to make rolling cuffs up? You know what, Heidi? That's a good point because this pattern actually does come with the button tabs. So you might be right. Oh, I just turned it inside. What am I? See, you can't even tell if the shirt's inside out or right side out. Okay, I was going to try it on the sleeve. See, I think like if, personally, I think that's kind of big. I have seen them with little button there though. I guess you could put a little button there. But yeah, like you wouldn't want to roll up and just leave it like that. That's a little big. You'd have to do maybe one more. My husband does roll up his sleeves. I should have asked him if he likes those button things, but I can't imagine him using them. So yeah. All right, let's look at the hem. What are all these threads doing here? I have no idea. Yeah, the word jacket has been around for a while, but we don't hear it very often for good reason, in my opinion. Okay, so let's think about the plaid matching here. I have something in my eye. So if we just look at this right here, right? Ooh, that pen. Get a couple in there so that it stays straight. Let's see, do we need to trim anything to make sure we stay straight with the plaid? Look at how I have an orange line here, but I don't have much here. Like it goes further to there, so that might be some truing right there. But this looks pretty symmetrical. So I think right here is my only spot where I might just trim a tiny bit right there. Rotary knife would be better, easier. But see, there's this orange line here. I have to look at it like this. Look at that jagged edge I just cut. Because theoretically, you know, our placket matches because of the plaid, right? We can double check it. We're going to button it like that anyway. So we don't really have a choice. This makes it kind of, this placket makes it kind of stick out like this little solid section, doesn't it? You don't like the word sewist, Lynn? I just don't like seamstress. It sounds like, I feel like it's, I'd rather, we've never really talked about this, but for me, the word tailor, I think for the world that doesn't sew, a tailor is a man and a seamstress is a woman. In the world of sewing, tailors do a very specific style of sewing. They're doing shirts like this and suits A lot of menswear, but mainly I feel like that's morphed into just a style of clothing, right? You're tailoring clothes, right? And then seamstresses, it's like only women are doing everything else, but they're not. There's guys too. And I think a lot of sewists, I think of sewist as being gender neutral. I'm not sure how guys feel about that, but the word I really love is seamster, but that never caught on. Yeah, and also sewer, your autocorrect thinks of it as sewer. See you later, Nikki. So yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I use sewist. Okay, let's just hem it. Let's just go. So I think what I'm going to think about is folding up on this line right here. And that's my point right there. Okay. So as long as on this side, this little pleat can make it a little tricky. And sometimes what I do is turn this under a little corner like that and then turn some more. So if you need a bit more seam allowance because it's thick, turn it under and then turn it under like that. Or you can fold it straight, and stitch it down right there so this little edge doesn't pop out and fray. Like and subscribe. Seamster. Oh, I've never heard of a seamster. I lived somewhere where they called, it was like a pun on teamster. Really? Interesting, Barbara. I like it. I went through this phase where before I got married, I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to stitch it like this, and then I'm going to stitch down that fold. Before I got married, I wanted to change my last name, partly because my maiden name was Graves, so, you know, it's just like kind of morbid sounding. I didn't really have a connection to that side of my family, so I was always the one in my family with a different last name, and so I didn't like sticking out like that. It made me look like I didn't belong to the family, right? And so I got hung up. Like one time I saw like a senator or I don't know, maybe, I don't know who it was in the paper. It was a long time ago, and their name was Good Lat, but it looked like Good Latte, and I just liked the way that rolled off the tongue, Good Latte. And I was like, we were at a coffee shop probably. I told my husband, oh, you know what? I'm going to go across that end right now. I'm just going to back stitch like that. Yeah, like that. That's cleaner. I was like, see, Cerami Good Latte. That just sounds good. Like, I like that. It still had the G at the beginning. It wouldn't have, you know, I wouldn't have had to change my initials. And I really liked it. I was like, I kind of just like that. That sounds pretty good. And he was like, okay. You know, like he's always supports me no matter what. He's never really critical of anything. And sometimes he'll point out something like, I just got afraid I was on the right side. He'll point something out like, maybe you didn't think of this, you know, that's about it. So then we got married. We didn't plan on ever getting married. We got married, and I just took Duffy. That was even better. Right, yeah, none of us even talk about sewing in public, right? So I know a lot of people struggle with this little curve here. And honestly, I think it just takes practice. Some curves are better than other curves. You can do things like ironing it first, and you can also put a stitch on the fold line and then turn it. There's a few little things you can do. Oops, my pen just got caught there, which yanked it all out of whack. So you can see I'm pulling this. I don't want it to be too narrow right here. So I sometimes push it like that. And I kind of wiggle this around to find the sweet spot. Push that down so that it's perpendicular to the hem and then lining up still with the seam, the side seam. So anytime I get to a side seam on anything I do, I'm like, okay, this is my neutral position. I have to be like back on track right there, right? So I gotta like I think of it that way. Like, all right, We got there. We got to be back on track. And so yeah, I fold this a little bit and I kind of wiggle this little edge forward and backward to kind of find its spot. Years of fabric handling. This plaid is also going to help me get like back on track. I want these to line up when I get to this flat spot at the back. Oh yeah, exactly, Lynn. It's kind of like you were isolated, right? It's like for the internet especially. Yeah, and that word seamster was being used kind of in my region by a bunch of really creative folks. They were really fun to be around. I just never liked seamstress. Doesn't it sound like my machine's touching something right now? Maybe it is. Uh-oh. That's not good. I didn't catch that when we were figuring out the center front there. See, this is why I don't like back tags. See, like this right here. I don't like those little threads. I don't want it to sneak out and into, be visible on the inside of my hem. I'm not very particular, but certain things I am. Maker is good. I like that, Sand Dollar. That is a very good point. I like that. So we were about to get another tenant in our little office thing here. And it was a psychic. And so I was kind of looking forward to it. I thought, oh, this is going to be kind of fun. You know, like I don't really believe or not believe in any of that, but I'm supportive of whatever anyone wants to do. And I thought it would be kind of fun. Of course, I'm kind of weird around new people, so maybe I scared her off. I don't know. But she said the whole deal was done, but I guess, I don't know, she's not been moving in. But I started getting the feeling, because she kept bringing her friends by, and then she'd be like, oh, can I show my friend your office? And for me, I'm like, ding dong, warning bells. I'm like, I'm not going to sew your stuff, you know. So, I mean, I was flattered that she was like, oh, I love what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. Let me show my friend. I'm like, okay, yeah. Maybe then I was kind of weird. But I was thinking that by the time she moved in, I was going to get a little sign, you know, that said, you know, yes, I sew, but no, I won't hem your pants, you know, just as a joke. All right, so let's see here. Here's my plaid. I like it doing it this way. All right, so I'm gonna pin this like this so that that's my target. Gotta get back on track by the time I get there. But now I don't get to put my little funny sign up. Maybe I should just put my sign up anyway. Right? It can never hurt for future. Yep. Yeah, exactly, Barbara. Yeah, I totally stole that from Mr. Domestic. He has a shirt that says that, you know. My advice, and I'm dead serious, when people ask me to hem their pants, I actually tell them I don't know how. And my ego is not tied up with some stranger knowing if I know how to sew well or not. I do not care. I don't want to hem pants. And if I don't know that person very well, I definitely don't want to be hemming their pants. I'm going to trim this down a little bit. So there's no harm in just saying, I don't know how. I've definitely seen my daughter's expression and my husband's expression when I've said something like this, and it's kind of funny. I've even seen friends go, really? You don't know how? And I'm like, no, I don't know how. That's like a special thing you have to do. Like you have to like, and you can make it sound complicated to someone and it's no big deal. You know, you're like, yeah, you have to like hem up on the floor, and there's just like this special ruler, and you like, it has this like pin holder, and you go up from the floor and you measure, and you know, and then you know, like with guys, you have to like ask them embarrassing questions. And so, no, I just hem my own pants, and sometimes I get it right and sometimes I get it wrong. And they just kind of go, oh, wow, dang, that, no wonder it costs so much at the tailor. No wonder indeed. All right, this placket is so thick. Okay, so I'm just folding that in there very artfully, and I'm gonna go like I did before. I'm actually gonna sew back stitch. I'm gonna go down this little edge here, like that. Secure it in there. Yeah, Starbucks cards don't pay the bills. That's nice. Like, the fact that they won't offer you money, come on. Do you think they pay their auto mechanic in Starbucks cards? It's a skill. All right, how's that look? That looks pretty good once it's ironed. Yeah, all done except for that other pesky cuff I gotta do. Not bad, not bad. Collar's definitely stiff. I'm glad I interfaced it, but both because the fabric was so hard, but it is kind of like boingy, you know. Yeah, I think mask making was a whole nother thing. That was like a service that some of us could perform, and other people could make money doing sewing, and I think that was really great too, you know. I was for people doing masks for free or charging for them. I think it's whatever you want. I just can't get the whole shirt in because my big old face is in the way now. All right, we have one sleeve done. It's looking good, looking good. Now I have one more thing to photograph. Yeah. So I just need to undo this right here and do my other placket still. Womp womp. I'll probably finish it today after I ship my orders. So, yep, Diane, exactly. Yeah, right, Nancy? I think that made us feel like we could stay busy and helpful. I agree. I made like 500 of them. But I also, that for me, I got to sell some myself. I forgot that I did. I sold a bunch to the local, well, to the city for the farmer's market so that they could keep still having the farmer's market, and they would just hand them out to people who, if they didn't have them. And it was great, and I just did it at cost. So it was a nice way for me to make a little money at the time. And I had all this extra fabric I didn't know what to do with, so I donated the fabric and just charged them for the labor. Yeah, right, Aisha? That was great. I know, I'd be like, oh, my friend makes these really great masks, and I could just refer to them after that. It was awesome. I think that whole thing was actually really a positive sewing thing that we all, like, in different ways, so. That's awesome, Chaz. I think a lot of people did that. They were like sitting around going, time to recover the couch. Fabric stores did really great during the panini, as I call it, on the channel. Yeah, they were, I know Hearts was working like 24 hours a day. 3,000, dang. Yeah, exactly, Aisha, yeah. Yeah, and there's no sewing machines in stock. It's still kind of a shortage. Not funny. This looks good. I'm happy with this. Sorry for the funny things I did, but look at that. The plaid matching looks nice. I really like the feel of this fabric. It is really soft. It's not too heavy. It's got some drape. It's a little thready, obviously. I'm gonna get this one little thread out of this back stitch here. Clean it up a little bit. I can always tell, look at that. It's an art. Get rid of those extra threads. See, looks better already. It's funny, the bobbin looks different colored, but I know it's not because we wound it. Yeah, me too, Heidi, thanks. The back with the yoke on the bias. We have our flat felled seams, which feel really nice. It's just so like not bulky. This sleeve's really not bulky because it doesn't have a glove and placket on it. Oh, nice. Needs a good good shakeout. Cool. Well, that was fun. So Saturday, the color is like an olive green. The face cam doesn't really help, does it? Yeah, it's like an olive green, Barbara. Does that look better? Yeah. Olive green with the orange. Yeah, I think he will. He likes this pattern. It fits him nicely, so that's good. Cool. All right. Oh, hi, Sydney. You missed all the sewing drama. I know how you like sewing drama. All right, so Saturday, I'll be doing the Ideal bag, which is a free pattern on my website. You're welcome to join in. I really just need one right now, so I thought I would stream it. And then in November, I do have a schedule coming out soon. Right now, November's kind of a weird month because I'm going to be gone for one Saturday stream. And then there's also, in the United States, we have Thanksgiving. And my daughter's coming to visit the week before. So the schedule might be a little funny. I've been having trouble trying to figure out how to commit to something. So I think I might be streaming all month except for that one Saturday, even though Thanksgiving is a holiday. Except I probably won't stream on Thanksgiving, maybe not that Wednesday, Thursday, but I'll probably be streaming that Saturday. Because I think we're going to celebrate Thanksgiving when my daughter's here. I'm not sure. We did, Nancy, we did. That's why I think it's just got worse and worse. Imagine. And then YouTube's like, sorry, you can't stream anymore. Oh, really, Bart? A bunch of people in the Bay Area doing hand masks for farm workers. Yeah, see, that's why the co-op did it. Is because of all the farm workers. They didn't want the farm workers to get sick or not be able to work and bring food because they were frontline food workers, right? Bringing produce and stuff to the restaurants and the grocery stores and to the farmers market. That was mainly why they did it. So, all right, guys. See you Saturday. I'm going to be using that green wax cotton canvas I used in the cocoon. That should be interesting, sewing the Ideal bag in that. I hope I don't even know how it's going to go. I've never top stitched pockets in that, so yeah. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for modding, Terry. Appreciate it. And good luck with your iron issue, other Terry. So we called it an overshirt. Are you talking about the Archer I made? The Archer overshirt? Yes. If you go to my website and look up Archer on there, you'll see all the ones I've made. And that overshirt one, it's in blues. It's reversible. It's a reversible Archer overshirt. I love it. It fits me so good. I solved a couple fitting issues that always bugged me on it. And it fits me so great. I love that thing. I made flannel on one side and a quilting cotton as the lining. So that was great for quilting cotton. I love that. I do wear it all the time. I should have worn it today. I was like, don't I have a blue jacket? But it's hiding behind my door and I forgot. So I wore this Archer instead, which is just a plain old Archer over my Deer and Doe, the Mellow. Deer and Doe, yeah, exactly. All right. See you guys Saturday, hopefully. Have a good Friday. Have a good rest of your week. Happy sewing. Bye.